Now our backend APIs are ready. Let's write code to display the list of expenses on the list page. So this is the final application. So we have started this server. Now open another terminal and we can run npm run dev command to start our front end application. We can access this here. Now I want to, instead of expense list, I want to get that list of expenses coming from this API. So let's open app.tsx. Here we have this expense list component. Now if you think we want this data of expenses in the expense list component and search expenses component also. So instead of fetching this twice, we can fetch it only once in the parent component, like this app component, and that expenses we can pass it to the individual component. So inside the app component we can add a useEffect hook, import it from the React. Let me zoom in, and we need no dependency. So on the page load it should execute. Now we'll install Axios. So let's first install Axios library so we can make API call. Now again start the application. So here I can create a function get expenses equal to async function, and I will call it here. I will use data equal to await axios dot get, and here I will provide that URL of the API. So this is our API URL. If you are not aware of async await, check out my linked video in the description so you will better understand it. So we are using axios.get, and here this API will return the list of all the expenses. So now I can log this in the data, and as we are using await, you need to make sure this code goes inside try catch. So if the API fails or something goes wrong, your application will not stop. Here I will just log that error to the console. So if you see here application, let me open the console. If I refresh this, you can see we have 3 expenses coming: card, 2 card, and 1 cash, which is as expected. This is card, and this is cash. Personal expense, internet bill, electricity bill, and which is what coming: electricity bill, internet, and personal expense. So all the data we are getting now will display this on this particular expense list component. So for that we need to pass this, store this information. So let's declare a new state here, use state. We need to import use state from React. So it will be an array. So this is an array, so we'll have initial value of empty array, and we can say expenses, set expenses. We'll also add loading functionality, so let's declare 2 more states: is loading, set is loading. So initially it will not be loading, and before making API call we'll set is loading to true. And once the API call is done, inside finally block will set is loading false. We are adding this code set is loading inside finally, because even if the API is successful or if there is error, we need to set this loading to false. So instead of repeating it in the 2 places, we can add it in finally. Finally block always executes even if there is success or failure. So even if there is success happens or if it goes inside catch, finally will always execute. So we'll set loading to false. Now we have these expenses, so we can, so this should be error. set error. So it will be empty initially, there will not be any error, and if there is error we'll set it something went wrong. Try again later. But if API is successful, we want to clear that error. So next time we will set is loading set error to empty. So initially it's empty, and if there is error it will be set. Now we need to set this expenses array to the data. So what is data? Data is actual array. So we can set this. So the response of Axios always comes in the data property. That's why we are destructuring. We can also write it like this: const data equal to result. And if I log that result, you can see that result data. So if I refresh this, you can see result contains data property and all other headers and all other information. So actual data comes in the data property. So that's why we are destructuring directly here. So instead of adding this extra line, you can destructure directly here. Don't need this extra line. Now we can check if the expenses are set or not. So you can install React Dev Tools extensions. So React developer tools, you can install this, very useful. So you can debug the application. So this is the Chrome extension. It's also available for Firefox and other browsers. Once it installed, you can go to here, these arrows, click on components and select your component. So our code is inside app component. Now you can see state is there. So as we are using functional component, we don't see what is this state, we have all these states. So you can click on this icon and it will display what is the name of that particular state. So this is loading is false, is error is empty, and these are the list of expenses. So you get all the information of expenses. So we are correctly able to set this state of expenses. So now we can use these expenses loading error to display some information. So we are correctly able to get the list of expenses. So in the next video, we will use these is loading and expenses and pass it to the expense list component and will display loading or list of expenses. So see you in the next video.